In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Zoe Gardner. If you don't know who she is, according to BBC, an immigration researcher, and Sky News says she's a migration expert, but a lot of people are thinking that she sounds more like an activist for open borders. She has very progressive, liberal views on the situation, and I don't think if someone of the opposite views went on these channels advocating their position, there's no way they would ever be referred to in the same neutral terms. One of the things I find most interesting about Zoe Gardner is where she was trained, and I've been highlighting this for a while on X, and it was at an academy, school, whatever you want to call it, called the New Economy Organisers Network, and they say on their website, we help social justice movements win. When I've talked about the New Economy Organisers Network, which calls itself Neon on X, and Zoe Gardner, she hit back yesterday saying, I find it funny that apparently the strongest smear the right-wing hate brigade on here seem to have found to discredit me is I did a 3-day media training 4 years ago. Come on guys, I don't want to brag, but I've done even more egregious stuff than that. So, she's calling it media training. And she also added, Charlotte girl, get some new material please. The girlies are bored. Well, I did get some new material actually. I had another look at Neon, which I'm pretty well versed with, but I found even more resources on their site. And the important thing to stress about this is Neon isn't a neutral media training ground. It's not as if, like, say I wanted to do some media training, I'd go online, I'd search someone like a broadcasting expert or whatever. It's organising movements for leftist, progressive policies. And one place you can see this, it's really obvious, is they publish messaging guides online. Now, one area that they publish a lot of guidance on, an area that Zoe Gardner talks about a lot, is asylum and refugees. And they have a few guides, and one from 2023 is called the Refugee Ban Bill. It comes with a list of framing principles, words not to say and to say instead, and why. And quite amusingly, it has a whole section about why you should back Gary Lineker and use a row. I believe in 2023 there was a row with the BBC and the government, I think, about him being outspoken. So you were advised by Neon to use this row to draw attention to the Refugee Ban Bill. And they have 3 example messages that you can use. This is text that you can say. You could just quote it to put across a pro-Gary message. So you can say, Gary said something lots of us are thinking. The reaction from Tory MPs and the BBC is ridiculous, but it's no wonder the government don't want people critiquing this awful legislation. The government wanted to make a big news splash with this cruel refugee ban bill, but they're now running into mounting opposition from all quarters, whether that's football pundits or the UN. And there's 2 others, like I said, 3 in total that you can choose from. So I'm not saying, obviously, I wasn't on the course with Zoe Gardner and any other of these activists. I don't know what was specifically said to them. All I can say is the people doing the course produce these guides, and it's very in line with their politics. So anyone that comes into contact with Neon or is browsing the website can find complete guides, pages of guidance on what to say. So you don't even have to think for yourself. So who has gone through Neon? Well, I don't want to pick on Zoe Gardner too much because Grace Blakely also went through their spokesperson network. She's another one advocating similar views. Also 2 Labour MPs, Miatta Fanbula, the Minister for Energy Consumers and former CEO of the New Economics Foundation, and Dr. Jeevan Sander, who is a Labour MP, and he very much backed the assisted dying bill. The thing to understand is that Neon is just mass producing left-wing activists, and they go into different areas of the ecosystem. So you get people going on air, you get people going into think tanks, or you get people becoming Labour MPs and so forth. And it all just helps to grow the politics ultimately that they're trying to incubate within the Neon network. And another person that seems to have passed through its doors is Gary Stevenson. And the reason I suggest that is because on Neon's social media, he's tagged quite a lot, and they tend to do that with people who have gone through the training program. There's also guidance on how to advocate for a wealth tax with messaging, a bit like the refugee guidance I just showed you. Neon is really well funded. In the latest accounts, 2023 available, it said its total revenue for that year was 2.8 million, and it ended the year with a surplus of just under 478,000. It's funded by the Open Society Foundation. It's been funded by them very generously over the years, hundreds of thousands. That's Soros, Unbanned Philanthropy, which funds Hope Not Hate Charitable Trust, and City of Sanctuary UK, and the Barry Cadbury and Joseph Rowntree Charitable Trust. Those are Quaker foundations. And what I know is that Quaker foundations are very liberal, open border advocates. All of these foundations, they might not be familiar names. They're ones that I have become incredibly familiar with researching left-wing networks. They always come up, and they're all broadly, I would say, open border advocating organisations. And so you just have this ecosystem of the same funders coming up, the same ideas, and part of cementing these ideals and these progressive policies is to get the activists on TV. Neon are really proud of their record, and the main thing to say is they make producers' life a lot easier. You know, they send out these lists of activists, particularly if you're a right-wing news channel, you're trying to get a left-wing guest. I've been there. I used to produce at GB News, and if you get one of these lists and you don't really know that much about Neon, it's just wonderful. They're making your life so much easier. But what it means is we're just getting this progressive, extreme stupidity fueled out onto TV by way of migration experts like Zoe Gardner. So if you want to find out more about Neon, check out the website, but otherwise I've got an article on my Substack which I will paste below this video.